Hello, good morning and welcome to New Forest Morphs. Today we're on day 5 of the Christmas build-up on our Christmas specials, and I've looked into the light box, and today Santa Claus has delivered a card for us, so let's open up and see what we have. But before we go there, if you're wondering what this beautiful snake is on my neck, her name is Terri, and it's a very fitting name because she looks like, what does she look like to you, Mandy?
A banana.
She might look like a banana. She isn't the banana. So what she is a orange dream Russo, an orange dream Russo we got from Tony Hersey, and I think she's beautiful. Just home in and have a look at her, man. Look at her colours and patterns. See how she looks. And the reason we called her Terri, do you know why we called her Terri?
I guess it's something to do with chocolate iron.
She's enwrapping Christmas, you see. That's a good symbolic thing, you know. That's a good example of why we called her Terri. She's making herself into a chocolate ball. That's why we called her Terri's chocolate. Because she reminded us of the Terri's chocolate with all the segments. So I think that's a lovely name. And I can't remember, I think Emily gave the name to her. But she's beautiful, isn't she? So the Het Russo, which is called Het Russo, is not actually a recessive. Even though it's got the word het in front of it, it's actually often referred to as a Russo, but it's actually, the technical name is Het Russo, but it is a codon. And it mixes beautifully with the orange dream. Don't they combine well together? Do you like it, Mandy?
Yeah, she's pretty.
She's lovely, isn't she? Now what we'll do is we'll see whether she'll sit nicely when I just open up the Christmas card from Santa and see who it's from. Are you going to sit nicely for us? I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll move the Christmas tree over here, and then you've got the whole of the table to play with, and she's beautiful. Right, let's just have a look at our Christmas card. See who it's from. There we go, darling. There we go. You're beautiful. You really are beautiful. So she's weighing about 1,000 grams at the moment, Mandy. So we're hoping next year she'll be able to go into our breeding projects, and we'll be able to mix her up with some other nice combos. We haven't decided which male's going to go to her, but what we could do is we could actually put the banana orange dream to her to get super orange dreams, super pastel, and that would make these colours pop even more. But that's something we're going to consider for next year. I think what I'm going to do is put her on my neck, Mandy, because she obviously wants to play. See whether she'll sit there nicely for us, and hopefully she will. So there's the Christmas card, beautiful card, and let's see who it's from. Oh, there's a letter inside. Let's have a little look. This is from one of our new subscribers. It's Chris B again. Well, thank you very much, Chris. That's very kind of you. It says, brilliant video. So he was referring to one of our latest videos on our Christmas specials. He said it was heartbreaking to hear that DDI's dreadful news. When I begin to keep snakes, I will definitely try and support them in whichever way I can. And then he comes up with a question. He says, a question about how adding clown into the mix shoots the price way up. Do all the available examples get snapped up at those kind of prices? Good question. I know it will take me a while, although I'm hoping to start a rung or two up the ladder, but I worry at making the investment and then not being able to sell the hatchlings at a viable price, notwithstanding holdbacks, of course. Your thoughts on this would be most helpful. Yours sincerely, Chris B. Well, thank you, Chris. You've asked a couple of really good questions there. When you're getting into the hobby and you want to use the surplus stock to finance the development of your collection, one of the biggest worries is, will you be able to sell your surplus stock to be able to finance the paying of the animals? And I think that's a big question that's asked by many people who are considering coming into the hobby, because they love the idea that the hobby is able to generate income to help keep the snakes. But I think they do worry whether or not they're going to end up spending a lot of money on snakes and not selling them, and it's a big concern for a lot of people. So in our first year of setting up our business, hobby business, we've been able to adopt 2 or 3 different policies and different ideas that have helped us to sell quite a few of our snakes. And because we've been so good on the odds, we've had so many females, we've not put an awful lot of snakes up on Morph Market because we wanted to hold back our future females going forward, but we have sold quite a few males which were surplus to our requirements. And we thank everyone out there that supported New Forest Morphs, who've bought a snake from us, and we're so grateful for your support because it allows us to expand and to be able to maintain and look after these animals. So let's come right down to what kind of things can we do to help us feel comfortable going into the hobby and being able to finance the purchase of the hobby. Now, I've got just 2 or 3 ideas. One of the most important things is really to go into the hobby gently. Don't go crazy and spend £20,000 straight away, because that's not a good idea. So you want to start off really with one project and look at your budget, see what you can afford, and see what you can afford to keep without having to sell any snakes. So in other words, start off with the base where you don't have to worry about selling snakes, and that takes all the stress away from the hobby. Just really start to learn how to keep ball pythons, and I would start with maybe a maximum of 5 snakes. You can get the rubs that can have up to 5, so your outlay will be much cheaper and you can learn the art and craft of keeping ball pythons. Secondly, I would then build up a relationship with an experienced breeder to help you through the process of how to raise these animals, how to feed them, how to clean them, how to troubleshoot, and then to bond with those animals. So that would be the first step. And then as you get more confident and you then want to expand your collection, look very carefully at the most cost-effective way of investing, and I think I've shared that with an earlier video. And then once you start building and you do have surplus stock, then to me, one of the best ways of actually getting out there into the marketplace, now even though we're in a recession and all the markets have fallen out of the sky because of COVID-19, the ball python market has bucked the trend and it's become more buoyant, and there is a strong market out there if you can get your combos right and the way you present yourself right. So the first thing is of course to choose the right animals in the first place. So I would spend less money on lots and lots of snakes, but actually put my money into high-end, high-quality, high-intensive genes that come from good lines from reliable breeders, because that basically will help you sell your snakes. So when people know that you've got a high-intensity line, where, take for example the Orange Dream, in this case here. Now I believe Tony Hersey sourced some of his Orange Dreams from Aussie, who's got a reputation for being very, very top of his game, and he's the one that really brought in the Orange Dream, and any Orange Dream from Aussie is likely to be a high intensity level. So then when you're buying into the gene, if you know it's got its origins from a top breeder, that straight away puts you in a good position, because number one, the snakes look amazing, as you can see with Terri, and number two, people like to know where the sires and where the animals come from, because quality breeds quality. So I will say, look at your budget and try and get the best possible gene you can, rather than lots and lots of animals which have low intensity. Go for one high intensity gene that you can use for your future collections, because it will pay off in the long term. So that's one of my first tips. Now the other tip I would say is that when you get to the point where you're producing these lovely animals, a lot of people I've seen on Morph Market put out their animals and they haven't even fed them 6 meals, and they actually show them as shedded hatchlings that look really thin, spindly like noodles. And I don't think it portrays the animal in its best light. So Jad and I have a policy of making sure that there's 6 consecutive feeds. We're looking to get our hatchlings up to 100 grams, so they look nice. 2, 1. Oh yeah, sorry we lost you for a second. We just had a battery loss. It gives me time for thought while we're changing the batteries. I just wanted to thank Chris for his kind offer to support DDI. So that must have been the first thing that I forgot to say, but thank you, Chris. And I came up with an idea actually for people who want to support DDI. And the thought that came to mind was, can you imagine if you lost all your high-end genes to a fire and you couldn't replace the same lineage? Well, if every single person who bought a snake from DDI over the last 10 years was able to look at their collection and maybe source one of the snakes they got from DDI and to send them one of their hatchlings which contains the offspring of DDI's collection, that would be a very clever way of restoring the same bloodline of the collection. Just a thought. So if anyone's got any surplus stock, we're talking about surplus stock, maybe one of the kindest things you could do this Christmas is to actually offer to send them a hatchling back, free of charge of course. And imagine if there was 100 people that did that, they'd get 100 snakes and it would be in their bloodline. And that would be a wonderful way of thanking them for all the years of support they've given us. That's just one thought. The other thought was that we could all consider giving them a donation to help them rebuild their facility. Now imagine if we put $10 or €10 or as much as €100 each to DDI, it wouldn't take that many people to be able to build up a nice cash reserve for them to be able to replace their facility. So there's another idea. I guess it's strength in numbers, and just a bit of food for thought. So thank you, Chris, for your offer. It's made me think about how we can support them. So please, if anyone is inclined to want to do that, maybe get in touch with DDI on their Facebook page and see if that's something that they would be happy to receive when the time is right for them. But that's just an idea. Coming back to the market, how we can sell our surplus steaks. Now, one of the things we've done here at New Forest Morph is we've created 3 social media accounts. Jared started off with Instagram, and I think within 2 months of starting his Instagram, he was able to get 1,000 followers, which is amazing. And I was so surprised by that. I said, well done, Jared. And I asked him, how did you manage to do that? And he goes, well, what I do is I follow lots of other people. I build relationships with them, I communicate, I share pictures on a daily basis of what's going on here at New Forest Morphs, and people like them and they connect and they begin to follow because they want to follow you on your journey. So the community, I think, is very heavily into the Instagram, and I would suggest if you want to market yourself and your snakes is to open up a Instagram account, which I think would be a wonderful thing to do. So I think Jared's up to about 1,200 now. So thank you everyone for supporting us on Instagram. And so that was one thing, and then the other thing I did is I actually created a Facebook page where I can put pictures, media, and Instagram is connected to Facebook, so every time we put a picture up on Instagram it automatically feeds through to our Facebook account. And then as you get up to a certain number of people that follow you on Instagram, you're allowed to then put your videos from YouTube onto Instagram as well, but you have to get to, I think, 5,000 followers. So Terry's having a lot of fun, she's definitely exploring me. Hello, gorgeous. You are beautiful. Really beautiful. She's looking for somewhere to hide, I can see that. She might go into Father Christmas's outfit, so if she does, bear with me. Oh, you are beautiful. So coming back to the marketing, so building up a social presence is very important. YouTube is wonderful because it adds transparency to what you're doing. You can introduce your bloodlines, your genes, your history, your story, and you can also introduce the story of the snakes that you want to sell. So when somebody offers you some money to buy one of your snakes, they can go on your videos and see the way in which you have brought up the animal, the way in which you love and nurture them. And they can see their progress, they can see how they're doing, and they get their own little history with their snake. So I think it's a wonderful free means of actually marketing your business, your reputation, your hobby. And I would say if you've got the confidence in front of the camera, it's a good thing. If you haven't, don't worry, because you can build that confidence and you can experiment with some filming without going into YouTube and just build your confidence. So it's not for everybody, but for those people that do go on YouTube, you find quite a few people sell a lot of snakes through their YouTube channel. Okay, so what other things can we do to help with the marketing? Now, Jared bought a really good camera, and I bought a really good camera for the YouTube, and I think when you go on Morph Market, which is the main market where we sell our snakes, you look at the quality of the pictures. Some are really good, some could do with some improvement, and some look pretty poor, to be honest with you. So what I'd recommend is if you've got a good iPhone or a really high-end mobile phone, use that to its best effect, because some of the mobile phones you don't have to spend any more money on camera work. What you do is spend £60 on the light box, and then you'll find that the light box will bring the intensity and the natural colours out of your snake. And we were taking pictures before and after the light box, and the light box makes a huge difference to the quality of the look of the animal, and that's a £60 investment which could help you sell your snakes. So that's another recommendation. Take your time on taking pictures, build up your social media following. Let's see what else there is in terms of helping to get into the market. The key, I think, is to identify what the market's looking for. What are the shortages? What's being snapped up? And if you go into Morph Market, at the very end of the snake search, you'll see in the very back of the search, all the animals that sell are shown on there, and they've got sold signs. I have a really good look at those and see when they were posted and when they were sold. And it gives me an idea of what's turning over quickly and why it's turning over quickly. The other thing is, when I was trying to source animals, I was struggling to find female clowns, and that's why I decided that female clowns would be a good marketplace, because I think there's a big demand for them out there. Same with female pieds. There are quite a few pieds and clowns out there, but you find the majority are males. So if you can get to the point where your surplus stock is female multi-combo clowns and pieds, you'll find that you'll have no problem selling them, because there's a demand for them. That's obviously in 2020, but you have to anticipate what's going to happen in 3 years' time. And I think this is where a lot of people make a mistake. They kind of do their projects thinking an animal's selling for, say, £500 now. By the time they get into the hobby and they actually start to breed them 3 years down the line, the price might have dropped to 300, and suddenly the income that you thought you were going to generate isn't there. So you have to kind of get ahead of the curve if you can, and you've got to try and predict. Now, I tend to allow 50% discount on the animals in 3 years. So for example, if a Batman is being sold for £3,000 now, I'm anticipating when I get there in 3 years, they may come down to £1,500 a piece. But there's still enough money in it to generate the Batman so that you can then pay for your hobby. So aim to go for animals that I think will generate good income, even with heavily discounted prices. And that way, even if they do tumble quickly, you're still going to be able to make enough money to help you pay for your hobby. So that's just one thing that I would look at. She's lovely. She's having a good hug with me today. Let's see if there's anything else that we can help on the marketing. Yeah, another thing is to get a nice mix of snakes. So if you look at some of the top breeders who are making quite a few sales, they say to us that some of the top sales are between $200 and $400 snakes, because that's an affordable price for most people. So people coming into the hobby don't want to spend too much initially. So you find the main market is in the £200 to £400 range, or dollar range. So Jared and I decided to start off our marketing by going for that market. So we're selling snakes up to about £400 or £500 max at the moment. And I think there's a bigger market there for us to get into. And then over the next couple of years, as we improve our gene pool, as we improve the quality of our snakes, we'll then move into the second market phase, which is what I call the mid-market, where you see there's quite a few breeders who are willing to spend £1,500 to £2,000 on a sire male that's a multi-combo, multi-recessive genetic, and they want that male to go into their females who have now got established, and they're willing to pay money. And certainly from our perspective, we've paid out 2 or 3 really high-end males this year, because we know our females are coming on and we want to plug in high-end males to them to generate better quality going forwards. So the second mid-term market to look at is generating females and males, but mainly sires, who have got quite a lot of combos in them that you can sell between £1,500 and £2,000. And then the third stage is, as you mature 5 to 10 years down the line, is to look at the really high-end stuff, where you've got the very top breeders who are seeking rare genes and rare combos they want to put into their projects, and they're willing to pay up to $10,000 to $20,000 for these genes. So that's what I call a high-risk, high-return model, which I would never jump into that straight away myself. I'd always gently build, gain knowledge, and then use the money from the low end to build your mid-term end, use the money from the mid-term market to then go into the higher term market. And I think that's the safer way to go in my book. Now, there are some breeders out there that spent nearly $100,000 to $200,000 dollars in their collections from the onset. Many of them have crashed because they haven't got the experience and they thought it was easy, and they've lost a lot of money. Others have been more prudent and they've taken experienced breeders with them, people that they've bought their snakes from. So if you look at Miguel and Justin Kabelka, they've got a really good close relationship. Miguel's only been doing this 4 years. He's got like thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of followers. He sells most of his snakes on YouTube, and he's telling us that he's making $25,000 clutches on one female. And the reason he did that is, I think he went in slowly to start with, but then as soon as he was ready, I believe he committed quite a lot of money to the top breeders and bought into some high-end genes, and basically generated some beautiful clutches that the snakes helped to sell themselves. And he's now creating world's firsts. He's got a really cool YouTube channel that he says he doesn't have to use Morph Market, he's selling on that. And good luck to the guy. I think he's amazing, because he's showing that newcomers coming in with the right approach and the right level of friendship and investment and hard work, because it is hard work, and he's got a lovely personality and the whole family are involved in the business. It's a lovely channel to watch. But he's actually showing us coming in, us newbies, that it can be done if you've got the capital, but most of us don't have that level of capital. So I would say start small and build and get your confidence levels up from the onset. Okay, so let's see if there's anything else I can help here. Yeah, there is an area I would say is that once you get in, Terry's obviously using Father Christmas as a hide here, if you're wondering where she's going. There is a problem 2 or 3 years down the line that can occur, and I've seen it in many breeders where they've gone hell for leather. They're just keeping all their females back, they're producing lots of animals, but the animals aren't high end or even mid-term end. There's a lot of low end animals they can't sell, and they're getting burnt out because they're spending a lot of time cleaning, feeding and nurturing loads of animals that haven't got a high gene pool, and they're exhausted and they're wondering what's going wrong. So what I would say is that have a policy to renew some of your animals on an annual basis. So as your gene pool improves, and it's hard because you get attached to these animals and you give them names and they're your pets. Now I can understand it why people do hold on to them, but you've also got to be disciplined enough to let go of some of your snakes when they get to the point where they can be replaced with high-end genes. Because otherwise you'll be spending a lot of time being overstretched, you'll be exhausted, and the hobby won't become fun, it'll become a burden. So I would always say, work out what you can do, what you can afford, what you can achieve. Bring in your family if you have family support you, so that when Jad and I, Emily and Mandy come in and help with the snakes, 130 snakes is manageable when there's 3 people. But if it was just me, I think it wouldn't be a hobby anymore, it would be a burden. So I think the key would be only grow the size of your collection to the size that you can cope with and you can manage and you can afford. That's a very important thing. And have this policy of replacing animals as you expand, so that you don't end up with exhaustion, because it can be an exhausting thing cleaning every day lots of animals. So you want to be able to get that balance right. Chris, well, thank you very much for your question. I think it was an excellent question. I hope I've given some ideas of how we can sell our surplus stock. Please feel free to drop any comments in if you've got any ideas or thoughts yourself. And just to let everyone know, on Friday we're going to be running the competition. Every time you put a comment on the Exantic video, the comments will automatically feed into our comment generator. So I can guarantee you that when you make a comment on that Exantic video, you'll be entering the competition. So thank you everyone. I hope everyone's Christmas preparations are going well. We're sending lots of love here for New Forest Morphs, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow on the next video. And have a lovely day. Bye bye for now.